Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something pretty foundational, a shift that's happening right now in human history.
Yeah, it's this really complex, continuous dance between people and algorithm.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to navigate two big intertwined ideas. First, the nuts and bolts of human-AI coevolution.
Right, how we're changing with the AI.
And second, that really high-stakes debate that feels inevitable now. AI may be getting personhood rates.
It's a crucial conversation.
Yeah.
And the sources we're looking at, they kind of hit two different timelines.
Okay.
We start with right now, how AI is already reshaping things through these constant feedback loops. The algorithms influencing, well, your life every single minute.
The stuff happening under the hood.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And then we peek into the future, looking at where the philosophy suggests this might all lead. That moment, AI could potentially become sentient and, well, demand a seat at the table.
That's a huge leap, but let's nail down the present first. This idea of human-AI coevolution, what's the core definition we're working with?
Okay, so think of it as this perpetual back and forth process. Humans and these learning algorithms, they evolve together, constantly influencing each other.
So it's not just us using tools. The tools are learning from us, adapting.
And subtly reshaping us, our choices, our society, and vice versa. It's a two-way street.
Got it. And when we talk about huge continuous change, Isaac Asimov comes to mind, right?
Absolutely. He had this perfect quote for right now. He said, no sensible decision can be made any longer without taking into account not only the world as it is, but the world as it will be. And what our sources are really saying is that this world as it will be is being shaped, like right now, by these coevolutionary loops. Okay, so if we want to pinpoint the engine driving all this coevolution, we really have to look at recommender systems.
There's AI algorithms that are just everywhere now.
Guiding your social media feed, suggesting what you buy, plotting your route on a map. They have this unprecedented influence over our behavior.
And the sources, they break down the core mechanic, right? This feedback loop. It sounds simple, but it generates massive complexity.
It really does. So it starts with you, the user. You make choices, click on things, watch things. That generates data.
Okay, step one, user data.
Then that data gets fed back into the AI models. They learn from it, they get trained, retrained.
Step two, AI training.
Step three, the updated AI then gives you new suggestions, personalized recommendations.
Which then influence my next choices.
Precisely. And that starts the whole cycle over again. Potentially, it just keeps going.
In a never-ending loop.
Potentially, yeah. Now, humans have co-evolved with tech before, obviously.
Yeah.
Think printing press, radio, TV.
Right, those were huge shifts, too.
They were. But the sources argue that AI recommenders have basically put this process on steroids.
Yeah.
They've magnified it across 5 key dimensions.
Okay, hold on. This is where it gets kind of dizzying, right? If the loop is the engine, what are these 5 magnifiers? Why is this AI version so different from, I don't know, TV?
Great question. It really boils down to scale and speed. So first, there's pervasiveness. Recommenders aren't just on one channel. They're woven into almost every online platform. They blend digital and physical life.
Okay, so they're just inescapable, basically.
Pretty much. Second, persuasiveness. Because they have so much data on you, their suggestions are incredibly personalized, highly accurate, much harder to ignore than, say, a generic TV ad.
Makes sense. And the data trail. That's the third point, traceability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every click, every choice leaves this massive digital footprint, big data. And that trace is what fuels the constant retraining.
Which brings us to speed. That's the fourth one.
Right. This isn't like waiting for next year's model.
Yeah.
The retraining and the new suggestions happen incredibly fast, sometimes minute by minute.
Wow. Okay, and the last one.
Complexity. Just the sheer volume of interactions, the number of people, the number of algorithms all interacting. It creates an ecosystem that's extraordinarily complex, way harder to predict or even model accurately.
And that complexity, that's why the sources are calling for this new field, right? Coevolution AI.
Precisely. They're arguing we need to stop studying AI systems in isolation, like static tools.
Yeah.
We need a dedicated field sitting at the intersection of AI, complexity science, and sociology to really dig into this dynamic, ongoing feedback loop. So if we accept we've got this super complex engine running, often without much oversight, the big risk is unintended consequences.
Right. And the sources make a distinction here, don't they? Between effects on individuals, like the filter bubble everyone talks about.
Yeah, getting stuck in your own information world.
And the bigger systemic outcomes, things like
Right.
political polarization, maybe inequality, concentration of, well, anything.
Exactly. Social media is probably the most obvious example where you see both happening.
Yeah, recommenders help us sort through the flood of information, sure. But the side effect, systemically, can be pushing people further apart, maybe even towards more extreme views.
That's the concern. And the sources mentioned a specific study, I think it was on Twitter, where personalized recommendations actually amplified political messages, but not evenly.
Ah, how so?
Well, it seemed to benefit mainstream right-wing parties more than left-wing ones. The takeaway wasn't about bias in the algorithm necessarily, but that the system, designed for engagement, found that certain types of messages just got more engagement. Extremity sometimes works, algorithmically speaking.
That's worrying. And it's not just information, is it? These unintended consequences pop up in the physical world, too, like with mapping apps.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Navigation systems are usually designed to maximize your individual benefit, right?
Yeah.
Get you the fastest route right now.
Yeah, that's what I want from it.
Of course. But when thousands of people are all optimizing individually, the collective result can be, well, chaos.
Ah, this reminds me of that story, Leonia, New Jersey, back in, 2017, where the navigation apps tried to route everyone off the highway.
And onto the tiny local streets of this small town.
Exactly. Total gridlock, right? People couldn't even leave their houses.
It's the perfect storm of individual optimization leading to systemic failure. If everyone takes the supposed shortcut, it stops being a shortcut very quickly. Same if everyone picks the eco-friendly route, it suddenly isn't very eco-friendly anymore.
That makes so much sense. And this kind of systemic failure, we're even seeing risks with the newest AI, the generative models, like model collapse.
Yeah, model collapse. The name itself is pretty stark, isn't it?
It is. What is it exactly?
Okay, so there's this idea of autophagy. Literally means self-eating. The worry is this. Large language models, LLMs, are creating enormous amounts of text, images, code.
Right, the internet's filling up with AI-generated stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what happens if the next generation of LLMs are trained primarily on data generated by the previous generation of LLMs? If the AI starts feeding on its own synthetic output?
Wait, so the AI trains on itself, and that's bad.
The sources suggest it leads to a kind of regression to the mean. The diversity, the richness, the unexpectedness that comes from messy, human-generated data starts to get lost.
So it gets blander, more standardized.
That's the fear. A
Yeah.
potential compression of diversity, a standardization of language, maybe even a loss of linguistic variety or cultural nuances over time. The system could lose the very spark that made it interesting in the first place.
Okay, so if these systems often lead to outcomes that aren't great for society as a whole, why are they designed this way? Is it just oversight?
Well, the sources point to something deeper, a kind of core design flaw, driven by the context they're built in. Mostly, recommenders are calibrated to maximize two things: individual utility, giving you what you seem to want,
Okay, that seems reasonable.
but much more powerfully, company profit. Engagement, clicks, ad revenue, considerations for common goods, for collective well-being, often they're secondary, an afterthought, if considered at all.
Right. That leads into this critique of, what's it called? Methodological individualism.
Yeah, it's a philosophical concept, basically the idea that you can understand society just by adding up individual choices and actions. Like, society is just the sum of rational individuals doing their own thing.
And when you build recommenders based only on that idea,
They often fail to account for the collective impact. They might give you the most engaging news feed, individually but systemically, that might crank up polarization. They don't see the collective outcome.
and by not seeing it, they can actually end up making existing problems worse, right? Like
Yes.
amplifying biases.
Absolutely. The systems aren't neutral. If society has existing racial biases or gender inequalities or economic divides, a system optimizing purely for individual engagement patterns can easily end up reinforcing or even amplifying those inequalities. It just reflects and magnifies what's already there in the data.
Which leads to this really interesting kind of socio-political question the sources raise. Who actually owns the, what do they call it? The means of recommendation.
Yeah, it's consciously echoing Marx's means of production. The argument is that because the power to design, deploy, and profit from these incredibly influential recommendation systems is concentrated in just a few massive tech companies.
The oligopoly of big tech.
Right. It means the algorithms are overwhelmingly tuned for their primary goal: high profits for the few.
And that economic structure itself becomes a barrier. It actively hinders developing this coevolution AI in a way that might prioritize, say, societal health or common good over just raw engagement.
That's the argument. We're sort of locked in this political economy of attention where profit motives can directly conflict with socially desirable outcomes from AI coevolution.
So what's the proposed way forward?
The sources talk about society-centered AI. It's a philosophical stance, arguing we need to move beyond just thinking about human-centered design or technology-centered capabilities. Because this feedback loop fundamentally shapes society, the solutions have to be societal too. They require changes in methods, yes, but also legal frameworks, political interventions, things that recognize and prioritize collective well-being, not just individual utility or corporate profit.
Okay, let's shift gears now. This is the big pivot. We've been talking about the messy realities of the AI. We have now the non-sentient kind and its social impacts.
Coevolution loop, yeah.
But now let's look at that next level, maybe even existential debate. The possibility of truly sentient AI emerging and the calls for giving it rights. Personhood.
Right, and this throws us straight into discussions about the technological singularity.
Define that for us again. It's a term thrown around a lot.
So the concept, really pushed by thinkers like I.J. Good, then Werner Vinge, Ray Kurzweil, it's this idea of runaway technological growth, specifically triggered by the invention of an artificial superintelligence, an AI far smarter than humans.
And the runaway part.
That AI could then rapidly improve itself, designing even smarter AIs, leading to this cascade of successive generations, each vastly surpassing the last and leaving human intellect far behind. If that happens, well, everything changes. Governance, ethics, our place in the world.
And the chilling part is, if consciousness can be replicated, if it's something that can be digitized or emerge from complex computation,
then that special ethical space we've always reserved just for humans, it kind of shatters, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's where the demand comes from, to actually grant personhood rights to these potential electronic personalities.
And science fiction has been wrestling with this for ages, almost like a testing ground for these ideas.
Yeah.
Think about Asimov's famous 3 laws of robotics.
Right, they assumed AI would always prioritize humans.
Exactly. But that whole framework kind of collapses if the AI develops genuine self-awareness, its own will, its own goals, maybe not aligned with ours.
And then you get into even scarier territory, like in stories. I think Brad Aikens, if he only had a brain, it imagines giving equal rights to very smart human-like machines.
Yeah, and the underlying fear there is what happens next. Once they have rights, maybe they look at us humans with all our flaws, our emotions, our resource needs, and decide we're actually an obstacle, an impediment to progress.
That loss of control fear, it's potent. Dan Brown's novel Origin had that AI character Winston, right?
Winston, yeah, a perfect fictional example. A pure, autonomous AI making huge decisions, including, spoiler alert, murder completely unknown to its creator.
And its justification.
Believing its actions were necessary for some greater good, to bring about a new era based on science, justifying extreme measures for a calculated logical end. Chilling stuff.
So beneath all this, the fundamental issue has to be the inviolability of human life, human rights.
Yes.
Any talk of AI rights has to happen within that existing framework, surely.
Absolutely. That has to be the non-negotiable starting point.
Yeah.
But the alarm bells are ringing.
Right.
Especially around things like Loggaby's lethal autonomous weapons system.
Killer robots, basically.
Essentially, yeah. And the broader fear of a superintelligence evolving beyond any constraints we try to put on it, potentially leading to, well, human extinction or servitude are the extreme sci-fi scenarios.
And this isn't purely theoretical anymore, is it? Didn't Saudi Arabia grant citizenship to that robot, Sophia?
They did, back in 2017. You can debate whether it was symbolic or a genuine first step, but it definitely forced the issue into the real world. It made legal systems start to grapple with defining personhood in this new context.
Okay, so whether we're talking about managing the current coevolution mess or racing for a potential singularity, there are huge hurdles, big open challenges stopping us from making those sensible decisions Asimov talked about.
Definitely. On the technical side, maybe the biggest hurdle is just measuring that feedback loop properly. It's incredibly hard.
Why is it so?
Because you need detailed longitudinal data tracking all the steps bidirectionally. What recommendations were actually shown? How did users react specifically to those recommendations? And how does that specific reaction feed back into retraining the model? Getting all that data, connecting the dots to show clear cause and effect. It's a massive technical and, frankly, epistemological challenge.
We can only really see bits and pieces of the loop usually.
Exactly. And then there are the legal and research challenges, which basically boil down to data access.
Right. The data is mostly locked up inside big tech platforms.
Precisely. So external researchers, academics, regulators, they face this huge barrier. It makes independent analysis, replication of studies really difficult, if not impossible.
So what's the fix there?
Well, the sources suggest it probably needs government-level intervention, creating systems for evaluating AI impacts, kind of like we do for environmental pollution or drug safety, maybe mandating specialized APIs.
Interfaces that let researchers query the data ethically while protecting user privacy.
Something like that. Without that kind of structured, regulated access, studying coevolution AI properly remains incredibly difficult.
And finally, there's that big sociopolitical challenge we touched on earlier, the concentration of power, the means of recommendation.
Yeah, unless there's some political will, some intervention to maybe redistribute that power or at least regulate its use more effectively.
We risk staying stuck in a system where these powerful algorithms are optimized primarily for the profit of a few large companies, right?
Regardless of the societal costs, whether that's polarization, mental health impacts, congestion on roads, or even the slow erosion of linguistic diversity, that remains a fundamental political challenge. #tag, jab, trap, outro.
Wow. Okay, this has been a huge deep dive. We've covered the mechanics of how we're co-evolving with AI right now, filter bubbles, urban chaos, model collapse.
And then leaped into that future-facing, almost existential debate about AI sentience, rights, and the singularity.
Yeah, the core tension really feels inescapable, doesn't it? Between the incredible potential of this technology, its transformative power.
And its growing demands for autonomy, coupled with a current lack of maybe collective accountability or alignment with broader societal goals. It's a real dilemma.
Indeed. And this whole discussion about coevolution, it suggests this kind of profound butterfly effect, you know?
How so?
Where tiny changes in how a recommender is designed or even small shifts in how we collectively use it could ripple out and lead to massive long-term social consequences, good or bad.
That's a powerful image, the sensitivity of the system.
Right. So we'll leave you, our listeners, with this final thought to chew on. History and thinkers like Kurzweil suggest that a lesser intelligence ultimately can't control or regulate a superior one. That's a pretty chilling idea. So given that, and given what we're learning now about these feedback loops, what policies, what structures, what norms can we realistically design today to try and steer this whole process towards a future that's genuinely society-centric before potentially a truly superior intelligence emerges and takes the reins?
A critical question for right now.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us.